What if the clearest expression of love is not power, but sacrifice? What if true greatness in God's kingdom is completely opposite to what the world expects? And what if following Jesus requires letting go of the very things most people try hardest to protect? In Luke chapter 9, the story shifts dramatically. After Peter confesses that Jesus is the Christ, everything seems to move toward clarity and recognition. The disciples have witnessed miracles. They have seen authority over sickness, nature, demons, and even death. They have heard teaching that carries unmatched wisdom. And now they are beginning to understand Jesus' identity more deeply. But immediately after this moment of clarity, Jesus introduces something unexpected, something uncomfortable, something that challenges every assumption they have about the Messiah. Jesus predicts his own suffering and death for the first time. Luke says Jesus strictly warned them not to tell this to anyone yet. Then he said something that must have deeply unsettled the disciples. The Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and he must be killed, and on the third day be raised to life. Imagine hearing that after everything they had witnessed. The disciples had seen power. Now they hear about suffering. They had seen victory over illness. Now they hear about rejection. They had witnessed authority over nature. Now they hear about death. This creates a tension that runs throughout the rest of their journey with Jesus. Because the disciples, like many people, expected a Messiah associated with triumph in a visible political or immediate sense. But Jesus reveals a different path, a path that includes suffering before glory, rejection before acceptance, death before resurrection. This idea challenges human expectations deeply, because people naturally associate success with comfort and visible victory. But Jesus consistently reframes what success truly means in God's kingdom. Then Jesus expands the message further. He speaks not only about his own journey, but also about what it means to follow him. He says, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me." These words are some of the most challenging in the entire gospel, because they redefine discipleship completely. Self-denial, daily commitment, willingness to carry a cross. The cross in that time was not a symbol of decoration or inspiration. It was a symbol of suffering, shame, and execution. So Jesus is not speaking metaphorically in a light sense. He is pointing to a way of life that includes sacrifice. But the purpose behind it is not destruction. It is transformation. He continues, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will save it." This statement introduces a paradox that appears throughout Jesus' teaching. Clinging tightly leads to loss. Surrender leads to life. The world often teaches the opposite. Protect yourself. Prioritize comfort. Avoid loss at all costs. But Jesus reveals that true life is found through surrender. This does not mean self-destruction or ignoring wisdom. It means releasing ultimate control and trusting God with life's direction. Then Jesus asks a question that cuts to the heart of human motivation. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very self? This question reframes success entirely. The whole world represents everything people might pursue: wealth, status, achievement, recognition, comfort, influence. But Jesus contrasts that with something deeper: the soul, the self, the eternal identity of a person. And he suggests that gaining everything externally means nothing if something essential is lost internally. This challenges modern thinking as much as ancient thinking, because people still pursue success, often at the cost of peace, integrity, relationships, or spiritual grounding. Then Jesus continues with another warning. "Whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his glory." This introduces the idea of alignment, not just belief in private, but willingness to stand with Christ openly. Faith is not only internal conviction, it also involves external identity and loyalty. Then Jesus says something even more striking. "Truly I tell you, some who are standing here will not taste death before they see the kingdom of God." This statement has been interpreted in different ways, often connected to the transfiguration event that follows shortly after in Luke 9. But at its core, it points toward the reality that God's kingdom is already breaking into the present world through Jesus. Even before full fulfillment, signs of the kingdom are already visible. To understand this passage deeply, it helps to step back and consider the emotional experience of the disciples. They are in a moment of rising expectation. They have just declared Jesus as the Messiah. They have witnessed extraordinary miracles. They are likely imagining future glory, perhaps restoration of Israel, perhaps visible victory, perhaps leadership roles in a coming kingdom. But Jesus interrupts those expectations with the reality of suffering. This creates confusion. And honestly, that confusion is understandable, because human expectation often associates leadership with power without suffering. But Jesus reveals a different kind of leadership, one that includes sacrifice at its core. Another important layer of this passage is timing. Jesus shares this prediction strictly and warns them not to tell anyone yet. This suggests that understanding must develop progressively. Not everything is revealed at once. The disciples are still forming their understanding of who Jesus is and what his mission involves. Premature explanation could create misunderstanding, so Jesus guides them step by step. Another key insight is that Jesus does not hide the reality of suffering. He does not present faith as easy or purely comfortable. He speaks truthfully about rejection, suffering, and death. Yet he also speaks about resurrection. The Son of Man must be killed and on the third day be raised to life. This is essential. Suffering is not the final word. Death is not the conclusion. Resurrection is the outcome. This structure, suffering followed by glory, becomes a pattern throughout the gospel message. It also reflects a broader spiritual principle. Transformation often involves difficulty before renewal. Growth often involves discomfort before maturity. Healing often involves confrontation before restoration. Another important reflection from this passage is the idea of daily commitment. Take up your cross daily, not occasionally, not once, but daily. This suggests that following Jesus is not a one-time emotional decision alone. It is a continuous practice of surrender and trust. Each day presents new choices, challenges, and opportunities to align with God's will. This daily aspect makes discipleship active, not passive. Another insight is that Jesus connects identity with mission. The Son of Man must suffer, and those who follow him are also called into a similar pattern of self-denial. This does not mean everyone experiences identical circumstances, but it does mean that discipleship involves alignment with Christ's values: love over selfishness, truth over convenience, faithfulness over comfort. Another important aspect is the tension between visible and invisible success. The world measures success by external achievement, but Jesus measures life by spiritual alignment and eternal significance. This redefinition remains countercultural today. Another reflection involves courage. Jesus speaks openly about rejection. Being rejected by elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law means rejection by established authority structures. That is not a small detail. It indicates opposition from respected institutions. Yet Jesus remains committed to his mission regardless of that opposition. This demonstrates unwavering purpose, and it challenges followers to consider what they are willing to stand for. Another important truth is that Jesus does not call people into suffering for suffering's sake. The suffering is connected to a greater redemptive purpose. The cross leads to resurrection, loss leads to life, sacrifice leads to eternal gain. This transforms how suffering is understood within faith. It is not meaningless, it is not random, it is part of a larger redemptive story. Another reflection is how difficult it must have been for the disciples to hear this. They were still forming their understanding of Jesus' identity, and now that identity is connected with suffering. This likely created emotional conflict. But spiritual maturity often involves holding tension between expectation and revelation. Another insight is that Jesus consistently prepares his followers for reality rather than illusion. He does not hide difficulty, he reveals truth. This honesty builds deeper trust over time. Another important theme is eternal perspective. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world? This question shifts focus from temporary gain to eternal value. It invites reflection on priorities. What truly matters in the long term? What lasts beyond this life? These questions remain deeply relevant. Another reflection is that identity, not achievement, defines true life. Losing oneself in pursuit of external gain results in emptiness. But aligning with Christ leads to restoration of true identity. Another insight is that Jesus ties discipleship to relationship with him personally. Whoever wants to be my disciple must follow me, not an ideology, not just a moral system, but following him. This emphasizes relational faith. Another important truth is that Jesus speaks with certainty. He does not say maybe or perhaps. He says the Son of Man must suffer, be rejected, be killed, and rise again. This certainty reflects divine purpose. Another reflection is that even in prediction of suffering, there is hope embedded. Resurrection is included from the beginning. The story is never only about suffering, it is always also about restoration. Another insight is that Jesus redefines victory. Victory is not avoiding suffering, it is faithful obedience through it. Another important idea is that discipleship involves identity transformation. Following Jesus reshapes how people understand life, purpose, and meaning. Another reflection is that this teaching likely prepared the disciples for future events they would struggle to understand fully at the time. And finally, this passage invites Pite's personal reflection. What does it mean to follow Jesus when his path is not always aligned with comfort or expectation? What does it mean to trust him even when his way includes difficulty? And what does it mean to believe that beyond suffering, resurrection is still part of the story? Thank you for watching this video. If this message encouraged your faith, please like this video, share it with someone who may need encouragement today, and subscribe to Holy Path Insights for more biblical teachings that strengthen understanding of God's Word. May you be given courage to follow Christ faithfully, trust him deeply, and walk in hope even through challenging seasons.